Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Live at the Waterhole. We're first up. We're in the Madikwe Game Reserve of the Northwest Province of South Africa, and in specific, the Jamala Waterhole, where once again we've got some Ellies. Yesterday we had a lot of Ellies here having a pool party. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and what does the bush hold in store for us today? Well, you'll have to sit back, relax, and enjoy the animals coming down to quench their thirsts and cool off. And as per usual, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience. So we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the WildEarth website and registering. You can also join the conversation on Twitter, now known as X, and you can use the hashtag WildEarth. Also on the YouTube live chat. What is it that you'd like to see? What would you like to chat about? Whatever it is, send it through. We probably had close on about 100 Ellies here yesterday. I didn't count, but it was jam packed. And well, today there's quite a few less. There's only 2 for now, but I'm pretty sure there'll be some more coming down as the day heats up. And we've got this Duggar Boy buffalo. I think this one has got its full horn set. There was one with a broken side to its horn. He was also wallowing in the mud. But this guy, I'm just trying to see if it is in fact him or if it's another one. There used to be about 5 of them. No, it's a different individual. Got a full set of horns. So I think it's going to be quite hot today. It does look like it's a nice clear morning. Not too many clouds around. So that does bode well for us with the animals coming down to drink. The hotter it is, the better at the water holes. And speaking of that, I think it's time to go and have a look what all the weather is going to be like across all the different locations. So it seems like it's going to be hot all round. A little bit of rain at Okukuyo in the Etosha National Park. That's nice to hear. This is the period of the small rains, as we call it, in those parts. And there's also a bit more rain at Oldonyo in Kenya. All the rest, a little bit different. There's a bit of partly cloudy as well as open skies. And it seems like here is going to be very, very hot. And this elephant here really enjoying itself, getting stuck in the mud, cooling off nicely. As always, getting that mud in behind the ears, most importantly, and then in under the belly, up around the sides, and also over the top of the head. So, Billy, yeah, I think sometimes the elephants might be happy that there's nobody there, particularly the older solitary bulls. Sometimes prefer it, but in general, they're quite a gregarious or social animal, so they do like their interactions. I think it's just down to the individual and what kind of day or week or whatever it might have had. Sometimes they might prefer it to be alone, but otherwise, I think they enjoy the social interaction. Well, yesterday was really a family affair here because there were multiple breeding herds. There were also lots of bulls. It was just a real mixed bag. And they seem to just keep coming. had a lot of playtime over on this side as well. They seem to like horning the ground here and also sort of having a bit of a slippy slide. And this one now getting stuck in as well. It's doing its best Buffalo Wallow impression, it looks like. Elephants are always wonderful to watch at the Waterhole. There's always so much going on, and they keep us thoroughly entertained. Camera gone on a bit of a walkabout, but anyway, at least we can see there that there's a nice little herd of impala also around. They might be eating the dirt there. It seems to be a preferred spot for the animals to go and perform geophagia, getting in their mineral salts and maybe helping a bit with digestion as well. We've discussed this in depth over the last couple of days, but we see it happening a lot here, not only from the elephants, also the impala, sometimes even the zebra as well. But now that the elephant's finished, maybe this little herd of impala will go down for a drink. So they might have a bit of a splash. Oh, and we'll just have a quick view of the sky just to make doubly sure there's no clouds around. And so when they do arrive at the water here, very often they go to the first point and they might have a bit of a drink. It depends on how thirsty they are, but normally a splash over there. And they want to be heading towards these two that are the closest to us. That's where the fresh water comes out. So they'll most likely make their way on over there. That little baby went into the water and now he's been shooed on to come into this area where they're going to have a drink. Look at that little youngster go. So once again, also nice range of ages. We've got the two youngsters there that look of similar age or almost exactly the same size. And then a couple a little bit older and that tiny little baby and then fully grown adults. I think they're heading for the playground where it's nice and slippy slidey. It looks like where they're going. There the baby gets in. We're going to see lots of fun here, I think. So Tracy, and hello back to you. Yeah, elephants can lie down, sleep. There was sort of a fallacy that elephants can't lie down for very long to sleep because they say that their ribs are too heavy, and much like a whale, that can't support itself if they're lying on its side, and then it becomes difficult to breathe. But contrary to that belief, I've seen elephants lying flat. I've seen them lying at an angle. Um, from my experience, they do prefer to lie on a bit of a sort of angled slope, and then they sleep for longer. But I've still also seen elephants lying flat and sleeping for hours. So I think that it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but I don't know how then they would have been able to sleep for so long. And as I say, in my experience, yes, they can lie down and sleep, and they do. But they also can stand and sleep. They also lean against things to sleep. But I think the preferred mode and what I've seen them doing, in my experience, is lying on a slope and sleeping like that, as well as standing up and sleeping, and even sleepwalking on occasion. Mainly the older bulls, they can do this as well. There's no sleeping going on here. This is full of fun. And with the amount of food needed to be taken in by an elephant, they pretty much almost spend, like 18 hours a day feeding. So this kind of playtime fun is reserved for the hot part of the day, and then whenever it's cooler, then they're feeding basically. So that's right through the night, and the early hours of the morning and late afternoon. And then so in the middle of the day is to quench your thirst and to cool off. And why wouldn't you? Look how much fun they're having. Now that little youngster's getting right in the middle there. Looks like there might be one or two that get squashed. Watch out. They're having so much fun. I almost feel like going and joining them. It's incredible. And the breeding herds with the females, they generally don't have as much time for fun as the males do. So it's lovely to see when they are fully letting their hair down and going for it. So, Jenna, there can be little mishaps when babies are playing in the mud. There can obviously be, especially when there's bulls around, they become a little bit too boisterous. And that's why the females generally don't like when there are bulls around and they don't sort of continue on with the play there because they always just go too far. And they can also, be a bit too rough. And so they can injure the little ones. What I've seen mostly is babies sort of getting stuck in the mud, especially when it's very soft. It seems like this has got some soft to it, but it's also, hard enough that this baby isn't getting stuck in the mud. But then you'll very quickly notice the change of mood of the entire group, and they all then become concentrated on that little baby and get it out, and then they sort of rush away and get away from the danger, which is presented in the mud. Even though it's stationary, they'll get away from it and get the baby out and away as well. So I haven't seen too many sort of life-threatening injuries. But as I say, it's just with the play, there's always a chance for an accident, and especially when the bulls are around. That's why they generally don't hang around too much when those big bulls start playing too. So, Clara, I think there probably is a level of nervousness from the babies when they play in the water for the first time. But when they're so closely followed by their siblings and their aunties and their mom, that elephant babies, they generally just learn very fast and they follow and copy the rest of the herd. So if the herd gets stuck in and starts having fun, well, the baby quickly learns that it is fun and that it then joins in and has fun with the rest of them. They're really churning that mud up now. This is wonderful to watch. So you see, here's a bull that's just arrived, and you see that young mom with the tiny little baby immediately moved out of the area. So that just shows the caution that they do display around bulls, and she's exhibited it perfectly. You can see also some are more cautious than others. That youngster on the other side there took quite a while to get into the water, but when this breeding herd arrived, they went straight in. But it just goes to show that they're all individuals and they do have their own characters. So some might be more nervous than others, some play more than others, and that's just how elephants are. So there's bull now getting in the mix, and it looks like the other one that's on the island might do the same. You may find that the breeding herd sort of gets a bit nervous of that, and they all move off. So let's just wait and see what happens. They don't have a tiny little baby with them, but they are youngsters, so you may see the females end this play session. But who knows? Let's see. So, Genie, the elephant's trunk is an extension of its nose. So, yes, they do breathe from their trunks. It's also a very valuable tool. But that's why you see when they lie, they can put their entire head under the water and then they'll just keep it's almost like a snorkel out. You can see that one on the opposite side that's got its mouth underwater, but there comes the trunk. And so it's breathing and it can remain doing so. And I've seen elephants crossing the Zambezi River where they're all underwater and just their trunks are above the water. So they can almost walk on the bottom, but keeping their trunks out like a snorkel, and then they're able to cross like that. Also seen them in the Pongola Poor Dam or Josini doing exactly the same. So, Maureen, yeah, there can be a little bit of sounds similar to hippos. There's no hippos here, though, but I know what you mean. They've got quite an array of communicating. So, there can be sounds that sometimes sound similar to hippos. I think that little baby on the opposite side has gone all the way around this waterhole with mom, getting away from those boisterous bulls. Youngsters having a bit of a push and shove there. So slowly thinning out, last few stragglers, slipping and sliding around, throwing a bit more mud over themselves. There's a youngster drinking from its mum. And some of them leaving the area completely. That one just having a quick pit stop. So as it continues heading towards midday and the heat of the day, I'm pretty sure that we're going to see sort of rolling groups of elephants coming through here for pretty much all of the midday. And across the other locations as well, we can expect, if it's hot, you are well versed. If you're going to be a betting person, well, you can bet on the elephants coming down to the waterhole. So, Bonnie Girl, yes, it does happen with Ellies, especially with very young females if they become pregnant and they give birth. We know that on a few occasions, and I know of a couple of examples where the mother is so, it's her first calf, and she hasn't been able to get the baby to drink or anything, and then they start sort of almost separating a bit. But in all those cases that I've seen, that there's normally one of the aunties or the matriarch or somebody that steps in um, and assists with that, and even going so far as to starting to lactate, and so that the baby can feed from them, and then they sort of almost train that female to be able to look after the baby, and then eventually they're able to bond very well. But yes, so that's the times that I know with young females. I haven't really seen it with older females, more experienced females. They're so family driven and orientated, are elephants and the females within the group, that they sort of train as they grow, and they stay within the herd, and they learn from the experienced females, and then they pass that on to the next generation as well. So everybody's part and parcel of bringing up all the little babies. So it's like a cooperative breeding within the elephants, and so sociable, and they learn very fast. That I don't know if it really happens with the older females. Not as far as I know, only with new, inexperienced females and youngsters. So, Dina J, with all the behavior of elephants, I always refer to humans because we are very similar in, most of our behavior. Even though they're an elephant and we're humans, and we can't understand what they're saying, if you watch them for long enough, they are almost identical to the way that we operate, except for our greed and the bad parts of human nature. Elephants are very similar. So what happens with when they are play fighting, it normally just takes one to go a little bit too far, and then they become a little bit more serious. Just like, and it's mainly with the males because they play fight. Mainly it's not so much the females that do that. They're more caring and loving, and they just have fun. And they don't really get into the play fighting as the males do. So they play, they fight, and as soon as one goes a little bit too far, maybe hurts the other one, then it can become a little bit more serious. But you don't generally see them going and fighting that they injure each other. It's only once they get a bit older and they start getting the periods that they go into must, where they've got over 60 times more testosterone running through their blood. So they're very frustrated, they're agitated, they're aggressive. And if you've got two that come into must at the same time, well, then it just aggravates it even more. Then you've got two fully testosterone fueled bulls going at each other, and then that very quickly escalates and they can start fighting. And that's when you see that they will injure each other. They can even kill each other. And I've seen that on many occasions as well. So once they get that level of testosterone, that's when they sort of take things a bit too far.
Step into a world of discovery as you join Eco Training's renowned courses in the heart of Kenya's Masai Mara. These courses are the perfect way to gain a deep understanding of the African bush, even if you have limited time. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to experience the wild in a meaningful and life-changing way. Enroll today and embark on a transformative journey with Eco Training in Kenya's Masai Mara, the leading force in conservation education.
So here's an example of a bit of play fighting. You see these, it's probably two bulls once again, young bulls. You'll just see them continue on playing. It's just sort of a dominance thing as well. Normally the bigger one that does get a bit of subordinate behavior then coming from the loser, and you see it in the background there too. Constantly play fighting. It's very important for them to get all the muscle memory and having practiced it before they actually have to do it to gain mating rights when they get older. So that's generally how the fights do end. You can see this one on the left just showing a bit of subordinate behavior now. Seems the one on the right has won, and then they'll back off and sometimes turn around and even run off with the winner pursuing. But generally, that's as far as it goes. So Gareth, all the really bad behavior coming from bulls is generally when they're in must. They're a little bit unreasonable, and they can be mad with everything. They can push over trees just for the sake of it, and they can then, yes, dominate a waterhole. They chase everything away. You can just feel their anger, their frustration, their anxiousness. Everything is just heightened when they're like that. So a bull out of must is one of the most happy-go-lucky creatures out there. It's one of the best viewing animals, both on foot and by vehicle, because they're just so calm, unaggressive, and sometimes a little bit curious. but very soft in their nature. So, but when they get that increase in testosterone, everything like that goes out the window. Unreasonable. And as I say, I've seen bulls just picking up logs and throwing them around, pushing trees over for no apparent reason, just because it was there. And any animals coming near it, they charge it. So, yeah, anything unusual or untoward or unreasonable from elephant bulls, generally when they're in must. So, Annette, I'm glad you've got such a clear picture. It is wonderful to watch the elephants like this, and the clarity is quite special as well. As all these locations are fantastic, they all offer a different angle and perspective, but the elephants have really been producing here at Jamala. So, it's just a wonderful waterhole to watch, especially at this time of the year, with so many elephants coming down and enjoying themselves, and we can just enjoy the show. So, Narina, yes, I will be going to Amakhala in December. I think it's from the 11th to the 23rd of December. So, I will be back out there in the thick of it and not just watching these remote cameras, although I do really enjoy this. But yeah, Amakhala is not too far from where I live, so it makes life easy to get up there. So they do say that the explanation as to why elephants love the water so much and why they are very adept in the water, they can swim very well. And I've seen them, fully submersed and swimming, almost porpoising. And because they are very closely related to an aquatic mammal, the manatee, which look like walruses or chunky porpoises, also known as sea cows. So maybe it's due to their ancestry that they're actually so good in the water.
Whether you're a retiree, a recent graduate, or a professional seeking a change, the 55-day eco-training program is for you. With the coaching of experienced training guides, you'll embark on an unforgettable adventure that will give you a deep understanding of wildlife, conservation, and African cultures. If you sign up locally or internationally using this promo code, you'll receive 2,000 Rand off.
So, with all these elephants swimming and playing around, I was just digging a little bit on some information about elephants and swimming in particular. And I found a nice little write up on animalways.org. And they say that experts have pointed out that an elephant can swim without touching the ground for nearly 6 hours. An elephant can cover a distance of about 30 kilometers while swimming at a speed of around 2.1 kilometers per hour. Along with their trunks, they use their feet as strong paddles while swimming. And other than that, the elephant's small muscular body muscle enables them to drag themselves against heavy currents in the water. However, the massive body of the elephants could have created obstacles if these animals were not extremely smart. They use their bodies extremely smartly while swimming in various situations. They may be heavy set, but their bodies do not become obstacles in the water. While talking about the elephant's swimming abilities, we should not forget that these animals can walk about 80 miles daily for food and water. That means their legs are powerful and muscular. That helps them swim for hours against any strong currents or anything like that. And another factor that makes them long distance swimmers is that they do not tire out very easily or very quickly. But if they do get tired while swimming, they can rest. Their massive bodies give these animals a unique buoyancy that does not let them drown like dead weights. They can swim for more than 48 kilometers across the water and at 6 hours continuously. That's crazy. So, Bonnie Girl, yeah, definitely it does. The water holes definitely affect the surrounding environment. That's why it's very, very important for management of any protected wildlife areas. It's one of our big subjects in ecology when we study wildlife management and conservation is water hole placement. If it's not natural and you do need to put in water holes because the natural water holes are not sufficient, then, you know, felt surveys and geological surveys, etc., need to be conducted so that the water holes are placed in areas where the vegetation as well as the geology is not going to have a detrimental impact on it. And for instance, if you place a water hole in a climax community of grasses, which is very easily destroyed with overutilization, you can turn a whole area, really back on its head in terms of succession and destroy an area very quickly. The reasoning being is because animals will come down to drink. They'll concentrate around that area, so there'll be a lot of trampling. That's why it's important to know what soils are in that area as well, because you have, some of these cotton soils that can also be destroyed and create erosion. The trampling of the concentrations of the animals around that area make for potential desertification. So you can see around this water hole as well, it's very sparse up until you move a little bit away from the water hole. And the more ancient the water hole, the more sort of evidence that you can see of the impact of the animals that come there, particularly when you've got big animals like elephants. They have a huge impact in the surrounding area, obviously from their weight, as well as them being ecosystem engineers. So they push trees over, they can, kill plants all over the place very quickly. And if they're at the water hole and there's reliable food just next to it, then they're going to, overutilize that space because they're not going to go anywhere. They're just going to stay right there. So what you want to try and do is actually manipulate the animals to go into areas that are underutilized, and there's a lot of plants that actually react positively to grazing and to utilization, and you want to take them into those areas. So with the felt and geological surveys, you can then understand which areas are underutilized and which won't have a real issue for the animals concentrating in those zones, and draw them away from the overutilized areas. So it's a process of manipulating the animals to move where you would like them to go, and the placement of water holes is the perfect tool to do this. Whether we are going into, it seems like we are going into a warming cycle. It's probably assisted by humans or not. I'm not going to get into a climate debate now, but I think there can be arguments every which way, and I'm not a denialist either. I just look at facts and the figures, but we need to obviously look at the Earth in general and the cycles that do occur. So we've got an increase in carbon now that is assisting in the warming of the planet. So yes, there might be a problem going forward, but I don't know if that's going to be an ultimate issue. It might turn into a cooling cycle as we go forward. So the unpredictable nature of the weather currently is obviously a big talking point, but as long as there is good underground water within the area of the protected area being managed, then you can always sort of replenish water holes. But as I say, the most important being where the placement of those water holes is. And I think that's probably the biggest thing to think about, and just manipulating the animals to utilize areas that otherwise wouldn't be. We can hear Deirdre's cuckoo calling in the background. Deirdre's. And I just use as an example. They say that the Earth is warming, but us here in the Eastern Cape, we haven't had such long, extended winters, these last 3 winters, in memory. So everybody complaining how cold we are getting, other areas getting warmer. There might be a bit of a shift in climate that we are experiencing. Not always just watching what we see in the media, just from personal experience and from people's lived experiences. We actually noticing a bit more of a cold environment compared to what it used to be. So I think it's everybody's personal lived experience. And there might be certain zones on the planet warming up as while others cool off. I'm not quite sure on it all just being as simple as us heating up. I don't know. I don't think I believe everything I see or read in the media. That's why I think it's always important to get a balanced opinion and try and get sort of neutral commentators and scientists as well. There's always, there can always be agendas and sort of the ways that it's put out in terms, of changing energy sources, whether it's coal and fossil fuels, or do we go towards solar, etc. I think that's got a big part to do with the kind of reporting around climate change. I won't get much further into that, but it does sort of beg the question as to what are the motives of this kind of reporting. That's all I always think of. And if the motive is dubious, well, then we've got to question it. So as long as we look at that, I think that's the most important. So, Matt, yeah, there's different game reserves that you can drive off road, and so there won't be much effect, and some that will have a huge effect. And I'll take, for example, the area around the Sabi Sands in the Lowveld there. That's mainly granite rocks. So we look at the geology, and as a resultant, a very sandy type. Large granule soil size, which isn't impacted that badly if you drive off road in those parts. Obviously, the plants do, there is an effect. Obviously, if you move through the bush with something heavy, it's same like an elephant that walks through. It does have an impact, and there is soil compaction. But it loosens up very easily. If you go into clay cotton soils and clay in general, like the areas in the Eastern Cape, where it's all sedimentary soils and clay based areas, if you drive off road on that, it turns, especially when wet. It turns from concrete when it's dry into slush when it's wet, and so there's a huge impact if you drive off-road in those parts, especially when it's wet. When it's not wet, there's a case to say that it doesn't really do much at all. But if there's any moisture on those soils, it changes the landscape completely, cuts in divots, and makes for heavy erosion. When it rains again, those are sort of made little roads and rivers, and they'll flow in that same cut lines that you've made with the 2-track that you've driven off-road there. And then it can, change the landscape quite drastically and have a high impact. So I think it's all location specific as to whether the soil compaction will have a big effect or not. In the Eastern Cape, huge, especially when it's wet. In the Lowveld, it's a low impact, as I say, because of that soil structure. Generally, it's most areas it's quite a low impact that you have there. So, as I say, area specific. Righty, so it's quietened down a little bit here. It's still a couple of elephants, but nothing like it was before. So with that, I think we'll take the opportunity just to change of place, and let's head to the Greater Kruger National Park and Djuma. Well, it seems, I think this might be our resident hippo. I'm not 100% sure. It might be his partner as well. But it is, in fact, a hippo. That's what we do know. Looks like it might be Dewey, a resident bull. Seems like there's some fishies just next to it. You often have the fish sort of swimming around the hippos because when they defecate in the water, there's all sorts that comes to feed on that, and then the fish feed on those things that come for that, and so it's a whole little ecosystem that surrounds a hippo, as well as when they move, through the mud, they can chase out and open up the homes for invertebrates and all sorts of little insects and so on that the fish can then feed on. So there's always quite a bit of movement around hippos.
What if you could explore the world from an entirely new perspective? Flying a real drone live without leaving home. This is Nature Eye. Discover our planet's landscapes with a personal guide and a powerful camera. Every flight helps conserve the locations you visit. Book your adventure with Nature Eye.
So you can see a little bit overcast, and as a result, it will be a little bit cooler than usual. And so there's every opportunity that we may even see predators walking around. I'm hoping for a leopard. Come on. So keep your eyes peeled for a camouflage kitty cat. That's what we would love to see. If you think you've seen one, let us know, and we'll check back. But you got to go pretty slowly because they are so well hidden. There's something in there. Either kudu, maybe an nyala. It's a waterbuck, is it? Sure, that's a little bit out of focus, but I think it is in fact a waterbuck. Just its nose and mouth, you can see it ruminating. And that nice long hair, like a teddy bear, as I always refer to them as. Yeah, Gina Boo, if that waterbuck wasn't chewing, you could very easily miss it. And it's the same with the predators, especially leopards. Sometimes, I've spotted them the most by their white tail at the end when it's curled up. But if they're lying flat or whatever, they're almost invisible. They're like ghosts. So you've got to wait for them to move or just to pick their tail up. And I always just look for that little white flash of the end of their tail. Just goes to show how well camouflaged animals are in the bush. Even the likes of zebra, their bodies are broken up so well by those stripes, even though you would think that black and white would stand out, but they blend in surprisingly well. So, Lara, thanks for your lovely comment, and yeah, it's been wonderful on the Waterhole shows. Oh, here we go. You get a nice clearer view on this very well camouflaged waterbuck. But thank you, Lara. That's lovely to hear. So, and always good just to spend a little bit of time watching some of the prey species. You can always pick up if there's anything happening around that we don't know about, just by their body language as well. That waterbuck looking very calm as it's ruminating. So I don't think there's anything in its vicinity that would be anything like a predator. So for now, the search continues.
Africam brings the wild to you. Watch the Big Five at our Waterhole cameras. Indulge your passion for birding with the black eagles on the Black Eagle camera, flamingos at Camphor's Dam, and penguins at Stony Point. Listen to the soothing sounds of Lisbon Falls, or witness animals up close at Cat-Eye Pan. Imagine you're at the hide at Aldonyo Lodge, gazing at elephants with the majestic Mount Kilimanjaro as your backdrop. Join us at Africam for an extraordinary wildlife adventure.
So at 12 o'clock, we will be adding the Africam waterholes, and that at that time the YouTube stream will go down, but it will still be available on Freeview in the UK, channel 91. It's also on DSTV, channel 183, and you can also still watch on the WildEarth app. You can also do it on the WildEarth website. So just remember that will be from 12 o'clock. I think this hippo is leaning up against something. I think it might be a log or something there. That's just helping raise its head out of the water, but in so doing, exposing its wonderful smile. So nearly time for the Africam waterholes to come online, and that will be in the next minute. So we've gone over to the Africam Olifants River, also in the Greater Kruger National Park. And here